What if everything you've been waiting for, more clarity, more discipline, more peace, more power, was only 7 days away? Think about that. 7 days, not years, not some distant future version of yourself. Just one single week. Most people spend their entire lives waiting for the right moment to change, never realizing that change doesn't need perfect timing. It only needs a decision. One moment of deep commitment, 1 week of focused action. That's it. That's all it takes to prove to yourself that you're capable of becoming someone completely new. Because here's the truth. The gap between who you are and who you want to be isn't as wide as you think. It's not built with years of struggle or endless sacrifice. It's built with habits. Small, invisible choices repeated consistently. And the reason most people never cross that gap is because they underestimate the power of 1 week. They think transformation needs to be massive to be real. But it doesn't. The biggest shifts come from the smallest changes done with fierce intention. That's where everything starts. With 1 week. One decision to stop watching life from the sidelines and start becoming the person you were always meant to be. You don't need a life overhaul. You need a reset, a rhythm, a structure that pulls you back into alignment with your potential. That's what this is. 31 powerful habits, divided into 5 core areas that touch every part of your life: your mind, your energy, your focus, your emotions, and your growth. These aren't just tasks to check off a list. They're not trendy routines or hacks. They're identity anchors, systems that shift how you see yourself and how you show up every single day. When I committed to these habits for just 7 days, everything changed. My clarity sharpened. My energy came back. My inner voice grew stronger. I stopped reacting and started choosing. I stopped hoping and started doing. And I realized something most people never get to feel. Change isn't hard when it's aligned. It's natural. It's inevitable. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being honest. Honest with yourself about what you want, what you've been avoiding, and what you're truly capable of. Because the only thing standing between you and the life you want is consistency. 7 days of aligned action. That's all. And the reward? That feeling of finally moving, of feeling momentum again, of waking up with a reason, not just a routine. You deserve to feel that. You deserve to know what it feels like to keep a promise to yourself and watch your identity shift in real time. So stay with this. Watch till the end. Let this week be the week you stop doubting and start becoming. Because if you truly commit to these habits, you won't just see the difference. You'll feel it. In your mind, in your body, in your future. 1 week. That's all it takes to change everything. If you've ever felt like you're running in circles, trying, starting over, falling off, then blaming yourself, you're not alone. That cycle of frustration is not because you're weak. It's not because you lack discipline or drive. It's because you've been operating in a system that was never designed to help you win. A system that rewards short bursts of effort but punishes consistency. A system that conditions you to seek comfort instead of growth. And the worst part? Over time you start believing that maybe this is just who you are. Stuck, tired, unmotivated. But it's not who you are. It's who you've been trained to become. The truth is, most people aren't failing because they don't have potential. They're failing because their mind has been programmed to protect the familiar. Your brain doesn't care about your dreams. It cares about safety. It doesn't chase fulfillment. It chases familiarity. That's why change feels so hard. Not because it's impossible, but because your mind interprets unfamiliar as unsafe. So every time you try to level up, your system pushes back. It whispers doubts. It brings up past failures. It convinces you to delay. Just one more day. Just one more excuse. Just one more loop of waiting for motivation to show up. But here's what your brain doesn't know yet. What you're about to prove. The fastest way to feel safe in the unfamiliar is to step into it with action. You can't think your way into a new life. You have to act your way into it. Motivation doesn't show up first. It's created through movement, through momentum, through proving to yourself that the old story is no longer true. That's why these next 7 days matter. Every habit you choose isn't just about what you do. It's about what it tells your mind. It tells your mind that you are in control now. That you're not waiting for life to change. You are the change. That you're not a prisoner of the past. You're a designer of the future. The moment you stop negotiating with your limitations is the moment you start building a new identity. And identity is the key. Because when your habits align with who you want to become, the resistance starts to fade. You stop trying to force growth, and you start flowing into it. That's when real power is born, not from effort, but from alignment. Not from perfection, but from progress. Not from pressure, but from purpose. You don't need more time, you need more truth. And the truth is, Everything you've been looking for has always been inside you, buried under doubt, buried under fear, buried under years of trying without a system that works. That ends now. This is your chance to break the cycle, to step out of the loop, to reclaim the version of you that's been waiting, patiently, quietly, for the day you'd finally decide that enough is enough. That day is here. This is your week. This is your moment. And it starts now. The most powerful shift you will ever make is when you stop trying to change your habits and start changing your identity. Because every action you take is a vote for the type of person you believe you are. And if you keep telling yourself you're undisciplined, unmotivated, or not good enough, your actions will reflect that belief no matter how hard you try. You'll sabotage your own progress, not because you're incapable, but because your subconscious is still loyal to an outdated version of you. You cannot build a new life with the same internal blueprint that created the old one. You have to rewrite the code, and that starts with who you believe you are becoming. This is where real change begins, not with effort, but with identity. If you see yourself as someone who always quits, your brain will search for evidence to make that true. If you see yourself as someone who rises, who adapts, who finishes what they start, you will begin to take actions that reinforce that truth. And once that shift happens, you're not fighting yourself anymore. You're flowing with a new version of you. You're not chasing motivation. You're becoming a person who doesn't need to be motivated to act. You just do because it's who you are now. That's why these habits matter. Not because they're magic, but because they are mirrors. They reflect back to you the story you're choosing to live. When you wake up early, you're not just gaining time, you're confirming that you're disciplined. When you hydrate, when you move, when you breathe with intention, you're not just improving your health, you're reinforcing that you're someone who takes care of what matters. Every choice you make writes a sentence in the story of your identity. And that story becomes the script for your future. You're not just trying to act differently for a few days, you're becoming someone new. And that requires courage, because leaving behind the version of yourself that's been comfortable, even if it's unfulfilling, is hard. But comfort is not the goal, growth is, and every time you choose a new habit, every time you follow through when it would be easier to break the promise, you are proving to your mind that the old version of you no longer runs the show. You're taking back control. You don't have to fix yourself. You were never broken. You were just living a story that was too small for your potential. That story ends here. You're not trying to escape your life. You're stepping into it. Fully, boldly, without apology. This is where the real power begins, not in the perfect habit, but in the quiet decision to stop being someone you've outgrown. The decision to choose actions that reflect the person you're here to become. Every day, every moment, every habit is a vote, and by the end of this week, you'll know exactly who you're becoming. Your mindset is the root of everything. Before any habit becomes automatic, before any routine reshapes your life, it begins in your mind. Every breakthrough, every comeback, every transformation you've ever witnessed or dreamed of, started with one internal shift, a decision to think differently. Because the thoughts you repeat shape the beliefs you carry, and those beliefs set the ceiling on what you'll ever attempt. If your mindset is built on fear, your actions will shrink. If it's built on truth, your actions will expand. You can't live a powerful life while holding on to powerless thoughts. This is why mindset habits matter more than anything else. They're not just about positivity, they're about programming. Rewiring the way your brain responds to pressure, to doubt, to resistance. And the first habit that changes everything is intention, not vague hope, not random motivation, real, conscious intention. Waking up each day and deciding who you will be, before the world tells you who to become. When you start your day with clarity instead of chaos, you activate choice. You stop reacting, and you begin leading your time, leading your emotions, leading your focus. That shift alone can break the pattern of an entire life. Gratitude isn't just a nice idea, it's a weapon against anxiety. It rewires your brain to see possibility instead of threat. When practiced consistently, it silences the noise of not enough and replaces it with the truth of what's already working. And from that place, change becomes easier. Not because the circumstances are different, but because your perception is. Your energy flows where your attention goes. A mind trained to see strength will always act stronger. A mind trained to see growth will always move forward. That's why reflection is also non-negotiable. Taking time every evening to look back with intention and ask, what did I learn today? How did I show up? What will I improve tomorrow? You don't grow by accident. You grow on purpose. When you practice these habits, intention, gratitude, reflection, you're not just feeling better, you're thinking better. And when your thinking elevates, your standards elevate. You stop settling for things that drain you. You start demanding more from yourself and your environment. That's not ego, that's alignment. That's the mindset of someone who knows they were built for more and is finally acting like it. Because you can't hold a powerful vision with a passive mind. You need habits that protect that vision, that feed it daily, that remind you who you are when the world forgets to. Your mindset is either your greatest enemy or your greatest ally, and every day, through small repeated habits, you get to choose which one it becomes. The most successful, most fulfilled, most aligned version of you is not found. They are built through clarity, through gratitude, through reflection, and through the mental discipline to protect your peace and fuel your purpose. This is the foundation. From here, everything changes. Because once your mind is aligned, your life will follow. Every time, without fail. When your mind is clear, your direction sharpens. But clarity alone is not enough. You need energy, pure, focused, sustainable energy, to bring that clarity to life. Without it, the best intentions collapse under fatigue. Your vision fades when your body is drained. Your drive weakens when your system is overloaded. If your energy is scattered, your purpose will feel heavy. But the moment you take back control of your energy, everything accelerates, not because life gets easier, but because you get stronger. Energy is not something you find. It's something you generate. And the way you start your day either charges your momentum or kills it before it begins. The first decision you make after waking is a message to your nervous system. Stay alive or stay asleep. You can train your body to rise with power or with resistance. That's why movement matters, not just for health, but for identity. When you move with purpose, you prime your body for progress. You turn on systems inside you that say, I'm here, I'm awake, I'm ready. And that readiness becomes a weapon against passivity. Water before anything. Oxygen before opinion. Sunlight before screens. These aren't just routines, they are rituals of awakening. Small decisions that tell your body, I choose vitality. Because when your cells are nourished, your thoughts are clearer. When your breath is deep, your mind is calmer. When your environment supports you, action becomes natural. You are not tired because you're broken. You're tired because your habits are draining you. But the good news is, energy is renewable. You can take it back. You can rebuild it. You can generate more than enough to fuel the life you're here to live. Sleep is not weakness. Rest is not laziness. Recovery is part of the process. When you train your nervous system to feel safe, your energy stops leaking into fear. When you protect your peace, you restore your strength. But that starts with boundaries. Boundaries around your inputs, your screen time, your self-talk. Boundaries that serve your highest state, not your comfort zone. Because energy flows where attention is protected. You don't need more hours. You need more energy in the hours you already have. And the fastest way to rebuild that energy is to stop giving it away to things that don't serve you. Every scroll, every complaint, every distraction pulls power from your system. Every time you say yes to what drains you, you're saying no to what builds you. That ends now. This is the reset. This is the reclaiming of your energy as your responsibility. No one is coming to do it for you, and no one has to, because it's already within you, ready, waiting, electric. When you align your physical state with your mental clarity, you stop chasing life and start leading it. You stop surviving and start creating. Your energy is your foundation. Protect it. Prioritize it. Generate it. Because with energy, nothing feels impossible, and without it, even the smallest step feels out of reach. Momentum is created, not wished for, and one of the most overlooked sources of momentum is the smallest one. A win. A single win. A moment where you followed through. A moment where you moved, even when it was easier to stay still. That win creates a spark, and when you stack enough of those sparks together, you build a fire that burns through resistance. You stop hesitating. You stop negotiating with your excuses, because now you have proof. Proof that you can follow through, proof that change is real, proof that the old version of you isn't in control anymore. Your brain is wired to crave rewards, but the biggest mistake people make is chasing rewards that don't build them. Fast dopamine from distraction, comparison, or comfort will always feel good in the moment. But it comes at a cost. It pulls you out of alignment. It lowers your standards. It makes you forget who you're becoming. The win feels sweet, but it's hollow. It fades quickly, and you're left needing another hit just to feel okay again. But when your rewards come from progress, from doing the hard thing, from completing the rep, from honoring the promise, you don't just feel better. You get better. That's how real confidence is built. It doesn't come from hype. It comes from self-respect, from the moment you finish something you used to avoid, From the decision push one more inch past your comfort, from the discipline to keep going when no one's watching. Those wins matter more than you think. They become emotional anchors. Your mind remembers them when doubt creeps in. Your body remembers the rhythm, and the more often you collect those wins, the more natural they become. You begin to crave progress instead of comfort. You begin to expect more from yourself, not because you're chasing perfection, but because you've tasted what alignment feels like. The most powerful shift happens when you stop needing motivation and start relying on proof. When you look at your habits and see a track record of discipline, of effort, of consistency, you don't have to hope you can become someone new. You already are. Because every time you follow through, you teach your brain a new pattern. And over time, that pattern becomes your identity. That's the secret. You don't change your life by thinking about who you want to be. You change your life by proving it, one tiny win at a time. No step is too small. No action is wasted. What matters is the direction. What matters is that you keep moving forward, no matter how slow it feels. Because momentum compounds, and eventually, the small wins become big ones. The temporary push becomes permanent belief, and the habits that once felt foreign become automatic. This is how transformation begins, not in the spotlight, but in the quiet, unseen victories that build the foundation for everything else to rise. Focus is not a personality trait. It's a habit, a skill, a muscle. And like any muscle, it weakens when neglected and grows stronger when trained with intention. In a world built to fracture your attention, choosing focus is an act of rebellion. Because the more distracted you are, the easier you are to control. The more scattered your energy, the less power you have to create. Every notification, every unnecessary scroll, every open tab is not just a moment lost. It's a piece of your potential given away. You cannot build your future in fragments. You need to be fully here. There is no such thing as being too busy, only too unfiltered. Your time doesn't need more hours, it needs more clarity. When everything feels urgent, nothing truly matters. But when you choose your focus, you reclaim your time, your power, your direction. That's why building focus habits is not just about productivity. It's about identity. It's about training yourself to value what matters over what's loud. Because not everything that demands your attention deserves it. Your dream does, your peace does, your progress does. And when you protect your focus, you protect all of it. Focus thrives in simplicity. When your life is cluttered, your mind mirrors that chaos. But when you create structure, blocks of deep work, intentional breaks, a clear start and stop to your tasks, you train your brain to enter flow faster and stay there longer. And that's where breakthroughs happen. Not in multitasking, not in rushing, but in presence. In doing one thing with all of you. Because when you give all of your mind to the task in front of you, it doesn't just get done, it gets done with excellence. With meaning, with momentum. Most people aren't distracted because they're weak. They're distracted because their environment is stronger than their intention. The solution is not more willpower, it's fewer temptations, less friction. Make it easy to focus and hard to get pulled off track. Design your space, your habits, and your routines to support the life you're building, not the one you're trying to leave behind. Every distraction you eliminate isn't a sacrifice, it's a statement. A reminder to yourself and the world that your vision matters more than your impulses. You don't need to do more. You need to do what matters, better, with presence, with fire, with undivided attention. Because that's where the real breakthroughs live. Not in the noise, but in the quiet. Not in more effort, but in deeper alignment. This is your power. The ability to say no to what doesn't serve you and a full-bodied yes to what does. And when your habits reflect that power, your entire life begins to sharpen. You think clearer. You move faster. You rise higher. Focus is not just something you use, it's something you become. One decision at a time, one choice at a time, one clear, unstoppable moment after another. Distraction is not just stealing your time, it's stealing your identity. Every time you allow yourself to be pulled away from what matters, you reinforce a version of yourself that tolerates interruption over intention. And that version of you cannot lead the life you're trying to build. Because the person you are becoming demands presence, demands discipline, demands protection of your mental space like it's sacred, because it is. The mind you feed becomes the life you live, and a distracted mind can't build a focused future. The world is loud, constantly screaming for your attention. But the most powerful voices aren't the ones shouting from outside. They're the quiet ones inside, waiting for you to slow down and listen. The ones that ask, what are you doing this for? Who are you really becoming? And are you proud of the way you're showing up? Most people drown those voices in noise, in constant stimulation, in endless scrolling and passive consumption. Because stillness reveals what distraction hides. But stillness is where truth begins. And if you want to transform, you have to be willing to face that truth. Not someday, now. You cannot numb your way into clarity. You cannot scroll your way into peace. You cannot avoid your life and expect it to reward you. The moment you decide to stop escaping is the moment you begin rising. Rising into presence. Rising into purpose. Rising into full ownership of your time, your thoughts, your direction. You are not obligated to entertain every thought that enters your mind. You are not required to react to every ping, every post, every piece of noise that tries to pull you off path. You are allowed to protect your focus. You are allowed to go dark so your vision can shine. Discipline is freedom. It's not a punishment. It's a release from the chaos that keeps you tired, scattered, and small. When you create structure around your focus, when you silence the unnecessary and elevate the essential, you begin to move with power, with precision, and that kind of movement builds something deeper than motivation. It builds conviction, a knowing inside of you that you're not wasting your time here, that your life is being lived with intention, not reaction. You'll never get today back. You'll never get this moment again. And that's not meant to pressure you. It's meant to wake you. Every moment matters because it's a seed. Plant enough distracted moments and you grow regret. Plant enough intentional ones and you grow a life that reflects your truth. That's the choice, not just once, but every day, every hour. Every moment you choose focus over noise, you reclaim another piece of who you are, and eventually, that reclaimed focus becomes your identity, not someone trying to escape distraction, but someone who no longer needs it. Because presence is your default, clarity is your standard, and purpose is the only voice you answer to. You can't master your life if you haven't mastered your emotions, because it's not your schedule, your circumstances, or even your habits that break you. It's the emotions you haven't learned how to face. The anger you suppress, the fear you avoid, the sadness you hide. These emotions don't disappear just because you ignore them. They sink deeper. They shape your thoughts, your choices, your reactions, and without realizing it, they begin to control the direction of your life. But when you develop emotional awareness, you take that control back. You stop reacting from old wounds and start responding from new strength. Emotions are not weaknesses. They are signals. Each one exists for a reason, not to paralyze you, but to teach you. When you label how you feel instead of running from it, you activate a different part of your brain. You pull yourself out of survival mode and into clarity. You stop drowning in your emotions and start learning from them. That's not softness. That's power. The most powerful people aren't the ones who feel nothing. They're the ones who feel deeply, but don't let their emotions define them. They feel, then choose. They hurt, then heal. They fall, then rise stronger. You cannot heal what you refuse to acknowledge. And pretending to be fine doesn't make you strong. It makes you stuck. There is strength in honesty. There is power in saying, I'm not okay, but I'm not giving up. Emotional habits like journaling, meditation, and reflection are not optional luxuries. They are survival tools. Tools that help you regulate your inner world so your outer world doesn't fall apart. Because if you don't deal with your emotions, they will deal with you. Through burnout, through broken relationships, through self-sabotage masked as procrastination. You owe it to yourself to become emotionally intelligent, not just for your peace, but for your power. Because the more control you have over your emotions, the less control the world has over you. You stop being easily triggered. You stop living in reaction. You start leading your life with grounded intention. You breathe deeper. You listen better. You rise faster. Emotional maturity isn't about suppressing your feelings. It's about owning them without being owned by them. There will be days you feel heavy. Let them come. Let the emotions pass through you. Don't resist the process. Let it sharpen you. Let it clear the noise. Because every emotion you process is one less chain holding you back. You don't rise by skipping the hard feelings. You rise by feeling them fully and moving forward anyway. That's resilience. That's transformation. That's how emotional habits change not just your mind, but your life. You don't have to carry everything forever. You just have to face it now. Heal now. Choose now. Your power is not found in being untouched. It's found in being unshaken, emotionally grounded, fully awake, unbreakable from within. The greatest transformation happens when you stop fearing your emotions and start using them. Anger becomes clarity, fear becomes fuel, pain becomes purpose. But that only happens when you stop suppressing what you feel and start channeling it into something higher. Most people don't lack motivation. They're just emotionally blocked, carrying weight from years of unspoken feelings, buried guilt, silent disappointment. That emotional heaviness turns into hesitation, and hesitation kills momentum. Not because they're broken, but because they're full. Full of what they never processed, full of what they never released. But when you begin to empty that weight, something powerful takes its place. Freedom. Emotional freedom isn't about not feeling. It's about feeling without drowning. It's about sitting with discomfort without letting it define your identity. You can be anxious and still take action. You can be afraid and still move forward. You can feel grief and still choose life. Because emotions are experiences, not instructions. They're not commands. They're not absolute truths. They're waves. And you were not made to break under them. You were made to ride through them and reach the other side clearer, stronger, lighter. That's why emotional habits aren't a luxury. They're essential. Taking 5 minutes to breathe deeply isn't weakness. It's training. Writing down your thoughts before they spiral isn't indulgent. It's mastery. Speaking your truth instead of swallowing it isn't dramatic. It's powerful. These small practices recalibrate your nervous system. They pull you out of survival and anchor you in self-leadership. Because when you're calm, you make better decisions. When you're clear, you communicate better. When you're emotionally stable, your entire life becomes more stable. You will never regret healing. You will never look back and wish you had stayed emotionally numb. Every layer you shed brings you closer to your real self, the one not shaped by past pain or fear, but by conscious choice. The world doesn't need more people pretending to be strong. It needs more people who are strong because they've done the inner work. That's what you're doing now. Not running, not numbing, facing it, feeling it, freeing it. No one is coming to rescue you from the storm inside. But you don't need rescue. You need tools. You need practices. You need a moment each day to come back to yourself, to listen, to breathe, to release. When you make that a habit, you stop reacting to life and start responding with purpose. You stop avoiding the truth and start aligning with it. And from that alignment comes peace. Not the kind that disappears when life gets loud, but the kind that stays because it was built from within. The most powerful version of you isn't the one who feels nothing. It's the one who feels everything and still chooses growth. Still chooses discipline. Still chooses love. That's not weakness, that's evolution. And it happens one emotionally honest moment at a time, one habit at a time, one decision to rise, even when it's heavy. Growth doesn't happen by accident. It's not something that finds you when life finally slows down, or when conditions become perfect. Growth is a decision. It's a daily commitment to do what's uncomfortable, what's unfamiliar, what stretches your current limits. Most people wait for the right moment to change, not realizing that the right moment is created the second you decide to step into it. Growth doesn't ask for comfort. It demands courage. It doesn't wait for certainty. It thrives in uncertainty. Because it's in the places where you feel the most resistance that your greatest strength is being shaped. Comfort is a beautiful place, but nothing grows there. And the more you live inside it, the more you forget what you're capable of. You start shrinking your dreams to match your current habits. You stop challenging yourself. You start settling. But the real you, the one that knows you're meant for more, doesn't want safety. It wants expansion. It wants evolution. And that only happens when you step into the unknown on purpose. Not because it's easy, but because you've outgrown what's familiar. And staying small will cost you more than failing ever could. Growth habits are not about doing more. They're about becoming more. Becoming someone who reads instead of scrolling. Someone who learns instead of blaming. Someone who steps into discomfort instead of avoiding it. Every time you stretch your capacity, you build belief. Every time you show up when it's hard, you raise your standard. Growth doesn't require perfection. It requires persistence. A willingness to try again. To fail and stay focused. To keep showing up, not because it's working instantly, but because you know the process is working in you. You grow when you make peace with challenge, when you stop resenting it and start respecting it as the path forward. You grow when you stop waiting to feel ready and start moving while still afraid. Because confidence isn't the cause of growth, it's the result. It's built in the moments you think you can't go any further, and then you do. In the moments when your excuses feel louder than your vision, but you choose your vision anyway. That's how you build an identity that matches your potential, not your past. The next level of your life will demand a next level version of you. Not a more talented you. Not a more lucky you. A more committed, more resilient, more disciplined you. And that version is not waiting in the future. That version is built in the decisions you make today, right now. With the way you speak to yourself. With the way you push through resistance. With the way you honor the struggle and use it as fuel, not as a reason to stop. You are not behind. You are not too late. You are right on time for your next chapter. And this time, you're not just going to think about growing. You're going to live it. Fully, relentlessly, unapologetically. Discipline is the language of self-respect. It's the invisible force that separates intention from transformation. Anyone can want to change. Anyone can feel inspired for a moment. But it's the ones who show up when it's boring, when it's painful, when no one is watching. That's who builds something unshakable. Because discipline isn't punishment, it's alignment. It's showing your future self that you're not just hoping anymore. You're choosing. You're acting. You're following through even when your feelings beg you to stop. You're doing the hard thing, not because it feels good, but because it builds the kind of strength that never leaves. The mind will always search for the easy way out. It's built to protect you, not to evolve you. It wants safety, shortcuts, and certainty. But none of those will change your life. What will? Doing what you said you would do, keeping the promise to yourself after the excitement fades, building systems so solid that your success becomes automatic, not optional. That's what discipline creates, internal power. And with that power, you no longer wait to feel motivated. You just move, you just decide, and that decision becomes identity. It becomes who you are now, not just what you're trying to do. The shift happens when you stop negotiating with your excuses, when you stop letting your feelings decide your future, when you start showing up not just for the outcome but for the process itself. Discipline teaches you that the reward is in the doing, that success is not some far-off goal. It's found in how you handle the hard days, in how you keep showing up when it's not convenient, when it's not glamorous, when it's just you, the work, and your commitment to be better than yesterday. The stronger your discipline, the more freedom you create. Freedom from regret, freedom from self-doubt, freedom from the chaos of inconsistency. You stop being tossed around by circumstances and start building a life you can count on. A life where results aren't lucky, they're earned, where confidence isn't a mood, it's a reflection of your habits, where your future is no longer a dream, it's a consequence of your daily standards. You raise your standard, and life rises with you. No one is born with discipline. It's built. Repetition, intention, sacrifice. The willingness to do the hard thing now so you can have the easy life later. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be consistent. One small promise kept today turns into momentum tomorrow, and that momentum compounds. It becomes undeniable. It becomes the thing that separates you from who you were. This is the moment to choose structure over chaos, follow through over feeling, and excellence over excuses. You're not here to live on autopilot. You're here to rise, to train your willpower like a muscle, to become the kind of person who no longer needs to push, but one who pulls greatness into every single day through the quiet, unbreakable power of discipline. Your thoughts are the blueprint of your future. Every action, every habit, every breakthrough starts in the mind. What you repeatedly think becomes what you believe, and what you believe becomes how you live. If your mind is filled with limitations, your life will reflect those limits. If your inner dialogue is filled with doubt, your actions will hesitate. But when you learn to control your thoughts, you begin to control your direction. You stop reacting, you start creating. And that shift, however subtle, can change everything. Because the real transformation begins when you stop being at war with yourself and start leading yourself with clarity, purpose, and unshakable belief. Negative thoughts don't disappear on their own. They grow when left unchallenged. They repeat themselves until they feel like truth. But they're not truth. They're patterns. And patterns can be broken. It starts with awareness, noticing the story you tell yourself in moments of stress, discomfort, or uncertainty. The quiet lies that whisper you're not enough, that it's too late, that your past defines your limits. But those thoughts are not you. They are echoes of fear. And fear loses power the moment you face it, the moment you challenge it, the moment you speak back with intention and decide that your mind will no longer be a battlefield, it will be your greatest weapon. You don't have to believe everything you think. You can interrupt the loop. You can rewire the narrative, thought by thought, day by day. You can feed your mind with possibility instead of doubt, direction instead of confusion, vision instead of fear. And when you do that consistently, you start to build a mental environment where growth becomes natural, where clarity becomes louder than chaos, where belief becomes stronger than hesitation. That's when you unlock a new level of control over your life, when your mind begins to serve your goals instead of sabotage them. Mental discipline is not about suppressing emotions. It's about leading them, guiding your mind away from distraction and toward alignment, away from what's easy and toward what's meaningful. When you become intentional about what you think, your energy shifts, your decisions sharpen, your actions follow, and every time you direct your thoughts toward strength, toward purpose, toward solutions, you are building a mind that no longer breaks under pressure. It adapts, it grows, it thrives. You don't need a perfect mindset. You need a trained one. A mindset that can bend without breaking. A mindset that doesn't run from struggle, but recognizes it as the very soil where transformation takes root. You are not stuck. You are not broken. You are powerful beyond measure. And the moment you start leading your thoughts instead of obeying them, you begin to reclaim your future. You begin to walk with power, with purpose, with peace, because the strongest version of you isn't buried deep inside. It's right on the edge of your next thought. Choose it, shape it, own it, and the rest will follow. You are not here to live the same day over and over again. You are not meant to wake up with a heavy heart, dragging the weight of yesterday into today. You are built for more than survival. You are born to rise, and that rise begins the moment you stop negotiating with your excuses and start aligning your life with your highest values. When you stop waiting for clarity to strike and instead create clarity through action, the path forward isn't found in perfect plans. It's carved through consistent movement. Each step you take, no matter how small, is a vote for the person you are becoming. And every time you honor that future version of yourself, your confidence grows, not from hype, but from proof, from showing up when it's easier not to, from following through even when no one's watching. Self-respect is built in the quiet moments. When you do what you said you'd do, when you choose discipline over impulse, growth over comfort, purpose over distraction. And the more you keep those promises to yourself, the more unstoppable you become. Not because life suddenly gets easier, but because you get stronger. You start walking with a different kind of certainty, a quiet power that doesn't need to announce itself, because it's rooted in truth, in work, in resilience. You don't need external validation when you know what you're building from the inside out. That's what makes you dangerous, not your talent, not your potential, but your decision to stay consistent when it matters most. You'll be tempted to fall back into old patterns. The mind will resist discomfort. It will try to pull you toward what's familiar. But you're not here to repeat the past. You're here to transform it. Growth demands friction. It demands discomfort. But inside that discomfort is a mirror, one that shows you who you really are, not who you've been conditioned to be, but who you choose to become when everything in you wants to quit and you decide to keep going. That's where identity is forged. That's where power is born. You don't rise by feeling ready. You rise by deciding to begin, even when the fear is loud and the path is unclear. Because waiting for the perfect moment is just another form of procrastination dressed as logic. Progress belongs to those who move, who act, who commit. You have everything within you to change your life. Not someday, not when it's convenient. Now, right now. The habits you choose today are shaping the future you'll wake up to. So choose with intention, choose with fire. Choose with belief that your life is not random. It is a reflection of your standards. And when you raise those standards, when you demand more from yourself, everything begins to shift. You are capable, you are ready, and all that's left is to act like it, not for anyone else, not to prove a point, but because you finally see what's possible when you stop doubting and start deciding. Discipline is not punishment, it's a declaration that you will not be ruled by impulse, emotion, or external circumstances. It's the choice to act in alignment with who you want to become, even when it's uncomfortable, inconvenient, or unnoticed. Discipline is freedom in disguise, because when you stop reacting to every distraction and start responding with intention, your life begins to move in the direction you've always wanted. You stop spinning in circles and start building something that lasts. You stop wishing for change and become the force that creates it. That shift is internal, quiet, unseen by most, but it changes everything. You have been given a mind capable of choosing its focus, of directing its energy, of designing its identity. But if you let it wander, it will default to chaos. It will cling to comfort, avoid risk, and justify inaction. It's not your job to obey your mind. It's your job to train it, to guide it, to rewire the thoughts that have kept you small, scared, or stuck. Because thoughts become beliefs, and beliefs become patterns. And if those patterns don't serve your future, they are not worth keeping. Let them go, replace them. Build a mental environment where possibility thrives and weakness gets no air. That is the work, that is the habit. Not a one-time choice, but a daily commitment to step into your highest self. You don't need more time, you need more focus. Time is equal for everyone, but focus is rare. It is the separator, the difference between potential and power. You can be surrounded by opportunities and still feel lost if your attention is scattered. You can have talent and still fail if your energy is divided. But when your mind is aligned with your mission, even the smallest effort compounds. You move faster. You think clearer. You rise higher. Not because you're doing more, but because what you're doing actually matters. It's aligned. It's deliberate. It's non-negotiable. That's the energy that builds momentum. And with momentum, everything changes. You don't need to force belief. You experience it. You don't have to fake confidence. It grows from evidence. When you consistently follow through, when you prove to yourself that you're done making excuses, you begin to trust yourself on a level that nothing external can shake. That trust is your foundation. It's how you stay steady when life throws chaos. It's how you keep building when results take time. Because you know your direction. You know your why. And no obstacle can outlast someone who refuses to stop. The people who change their lives don't have more luck, talent, or resources. They just decided to stop negotiating with weakness, decided to lead themselves, decided to be someone their future self would be proud of. That decision is available to you right now. It doesn't require perfection, only commitment. The question is no longer whether you can do it. The question is whether you'll choose to live like you already are. Because the future doesn't wait, and neither should you. Growth doesn't happen by accident. It happens by repetition, not just of action, but of identity. The habits you choose are not just tasks on a list. They're votes for the person you are becoming. Every time you act with discipline, every time you keep a promise to yourself, you're reinforcing a belief. I am someone who follows through. I am someone who keeps going. I am someone who finishes what they start. And that belief becomes armor, not the kind that hides your wounds, but the kind that helps you walk through fire without losing who you are. When you commit to habits that serve you, you are not just building a routine, you are building a self. Most people wait to feel ready. They wait for motivation to strike, for fear to disappear, for life to finally quiet down. But that wait is a trap. Because action isn't the result of motivation, it's the cause of it. Confidence doesn't come first. It grows from doing the hard things, especially when you don't feel like it. The moment you stop needing to feel perfect and start moving anyway is the moment you become unstoppable. You break the lie that emotion is your master. You stop chasing comfort and start chasing purpose. That shift is everything, because it means your future no longer depends on your mood. It depends on your decision. Every morning is a reset, a chance to begin again, not from scratch, but from experience. You're not who you were yesterday. You've learned. You've lived. You've earned another step forward, but you must claim it. Left alone, the mind drifts into doubt, into distraction, into delay. That's why habits matter. They anchor your focus. They give structure to your strength. They create rhythm in a world that pulls you in every direction. Without them, even the most ambitious dreams fade into background noise. But with them, even the hardest days become progress. Because you're not led by impulse. You're led by intention. You don't have to be extreme. You have to be consistent. Greatness is not built in bursts. It's built in layers. Small actions, repeated relentlessly, compound into transformation. That's the quiet truth most overlook. They want dramatic change without disciplined effort. But life doesn't work that way. You don't get what you wish for. You get what you work for, what you fight for, what you refuse to give up on, even when it's slow, even when no one's watching. Especially then. Because those moments shape you. They test your resolve. They show you what you're really made of. If you want to feel proud, move like someone who already is. Speak like someone who means it. Think like someone who knows where they're going. Because your life is always listening. It's shaped by what you repeat, not once, every day, one choice at a time. And when you choose alignment over excuses, action over fear, progress over perfection, you don't just change your week, you change your direction, you change your life. The difference between the life you have and the life you want is found in the space between knowing and doing. Everyone has ideas, everyone has intentions, but only a few have the discipline to act on them when it's inconvenient, when it's uncomfortable, when it hurts. That's where transformation begins, not in the comfort of clarity, but in the chaos of action. Growth demands resistance. It asks you to lean into discomfort, not run from it. Because discomfort is not your enemy, it's your teacher. It's the pressure that forges strength, the friction that builds resilience, the tension that awakens your potential. You can't escape the work. You can't skip the struggle. And if you try, life will remind you, over and over, that shortcuts always cost more than they promise. There's no cheat code for self-respect. There is no hack for becoming the version of yourself you were born to be. It's earned, through sweat, through setbacks, through relentless repetition, through the moments you want to quit but choose to stay. You build identity not with words, but with proof. You prove who you are by how you show up when no one claps, when no one sees, when nothing feels certain but the next step forward. If you want to change your life, change your standards. What you tolerate becomes your reality. The excuses you defend become the limits you live by. Raise your threshold for discomfort. Raise your expectations of yourself. Refuse to settle for patterns that shrink you. Because every time you lower the bar to meet your feelings, you rob your future of its power. It's not about being the best. It's about being better than the version of you that once settled for less. You're not here to repeat cycles. You're here to break them, to rise, to lead, to become someone your past self wouldn't even recognize. This is where real power is born, not from perfection but from persistence, from getting back up so many times that failure forgets your name, from holding the line even when everything in you wants to run, from doing what needs to be done without needing to feel inspired first. Because inspiration is fleeting, but identity is permanent, and when your actions are rooted in who you want to become, not how you feel in the moment, your future begins to align. Slowly, steadily, powerfully. You are not your past. You are not your mistakes. You are not your delays, your doubts, or your distractions. You are the decision you make right now. You are the standard you choose to live by today. You are the promise you refuse to break. There's no waiting for perfect timing. There's only now. This moment, this breath, this choice. Everything you want begins here. Not with noise, but with clarity. Not with intensity, but with consistency. Not with wishing, but with doing. And if you're willing to do what most won't, you'll learn what most never will. Not just success, but peace. Not just achievement, but purpose. Not just movement, but transformation.